All set.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. For the folks who are here in the room, I'd like to point out the emergency exits in the unlikely event that we're going to need them. I'd like to point out who's here in the room tonight. Myself, obviously, Dick Cushman, Officer Freeman, Gretchen Walter, and Tracy Castleman. Electronically, we have Mike Bacallo, Judy Boyke, Jonathan Karp, Nancy White, Elka Johans, our new comptroller. I don't see, there he is, Steve Returno, Robert Jermaine. Do I see Robert there? Okay, maybe he is there?
He's there.
Okay, we're good. Okay, Nicole. Okay, there he is, Nicole Walsh. Okay, Mike Maurizio. We have a representative from CDM Housing, which we'll get into them a little bit later. So, clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Blakey.
Here.
Councilor Carr.
Here.
Councilor White.
Here.
Councilor Bacallo.
Here.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, here. Okay, first item, we have a pretty heavy agenda this summer. Just like to let everyone know, we're going to have a special town board meeting on August 12th, 6:30 here at 8236 Brewerton Road. Mr. Cushman, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States
of America,
of America,
to the
and to the
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a moment of silence for our first responders and for all our troops in harm's way. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, Nancy, abstract.
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract numbers 28 and 29 dated July 8th, 2020 and July 15th, 2020 respectively.
Second, Counselor Bacallo.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted.
Supervisor Meyer, I have a question. We received abstract 30. Is that supposed to be on the agenda as well?
No, that came in very quickly, so it did not meet the guidelines that the board was encouraging us to have items on the agenda so you could have proper posting information. So that came in kind of late, so it didn't meet the requirements.
Oh, because I got it yesterday, so, all
I know.
right.
If you recall, Mrs. Boyke, we were trying to have items so that we could have them by Friday, if at all possible.
I understand, but
Thank you.
being this is something to do with payroll, I thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Michael?
Public hearing to consider zone change for a property on Topman Road, tax map number 055.02-26.2. Whereas the property owner of Topman Road, tax map number 055.02-26.2 has requested a zone change. Now therefore it be resolved that the town board sets Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing to consider a zone change from agricultural to industrial for tax map number 055.02-62.2.
Mr. Bacallo, would you like to have the clerk note the time, please?
Yes, clerk, would you please note the
Okay, thank
time
you.
as
We
6:35?
had, just on the copies that some of us got on the title, the tax map was not fully on there, but it's in the body of the resolution. So, okay, Michael, would you like to conduct a public hearing? Mike, did you want to conduct a public hearing?
Bill, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, thank you. Mike, would you like to conduct the public hearing portion of this item?
Yes, I would like to open up let me know if I do anything wrong. This will be my first time conducting a public hearing, Bill. So help
Okay.
me with this. I apologize.
We're working with you, Mike.
Yep. So I believe the first step is I would like to open up the public hearing, correct?
Correct.
For all those for or against.
Right, we don't have a traditional environment, but what I'll do for you, Mike, is I do have some correspondence, limited correspondence. I'll be glad to read that for all the members of the board if it's your
Thank you,
concurrence.
Bill.
Okay, thank you. I got one piece of correspondence from a John and Susan Dewar on Topman Road. And the question was, what type of business is moving into the property that would require a zone change from agricultural to industrial? Why not a change from agricultural to commercial? And for the board's information, I responded saying the owner is requested to use the property for storage units. You can see details on the proposal in the minutes online of the planning board. The second communication that came in was from Mark and Sherry Stevenson on Topman Road. Mr. Meyer, we own the property directly adjacent to the proposed property site owned by Paul Joint. We used to enjoy the privacy that the trees provided between our property and Mr. Joint's property. We no longer have that privacy as Mr. Joint has removed most of the tree cover between our properties, exposing our entire property and house. This is especially distressing during winter months when there is no tree cover between the properties after the leaves fall from the trees, totally exposing our property. We bought the property and built our home because it offered the privacy and security that we desired, but now provides neither. Now Mr. Joint wants to rezone this property to industrial from agricultural zoning in order to build storage facilities. We must oppose this zone change unless two conditions can be met. The zoning change must have a condition that only storage buildings can ever be constructed on the property. We also would include that a minimum of a 10-foot high privacy fence be constructed between our property and Mr. Joint's property before he begins construction of storage facility. We have little tree cover between properties when leaves are on the trees, but still see Mr. Joint's property, and our house can be seen from not only Mr. Joint's property, but from all people traveling down Northern Boulevard that could not be seen before, especially during fall and winter months. We are obviously concerned with privacy and security of our home and property. It will not oppose the zone change if both conditions are agreed upon. The stipulation that the property can only be used for the stated storage facility, and Mr. Joint builds a 10-foot high privacy fence between his property and ours, the length of property line we share. We will tune into the upcoming town meeting regarding this issue as it directly affects us more than anyone else in the area. Please send your decision in writing to us for our records. Thank you for your consideration. And again, that's from Mark and Sherry Stevenson. Those are the two items that were sent in.
Mr. Meyer, did we not also receive a letter from the North Syracuse Fire Department regarding putting a storage facility on that property? I received one.
Honestly, Jonathan, I don't recall that.
We did receive one. I don't have it prepared to bring up, expressing concern about the fact there's no water there. I know that was also addressed to the planning board. And I believe that might be addressed. Mr. Germain, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that's something the planning board could address if this is approved as part of the site plan process for building the facility. If this were to be approved.
It's possible, but it's certainly a factor for everyone to consider when granting the zone change.
Okay. Now, I guess the other question I have, as long as you're unmuted, if everyone else will indulge me, I know that we can do the first condition that they not that we're have to act subject to the conditions of people that write in. The first condition that we could put a restrictive covenant on the zone change such that only storage facilities could be built there. I know we can do that. And I know that your brother Neil Germain recommended to the planning board that, that they strongly recommend that if we approve this, that it be approved subject to that condition. But we can't approve a zone change subject to a 10-foot high fence being required, can we?
Not unless it's offered offered by the applicant as part of the application.
Right, which to my knowledge, it was not, at least in this case. Okay.
Don't know.
Jonathan, you brought up a good point. That actually was discussed with myself and Mr. Procopio. Unfortunately, he could not be here with us this evening. And actually, it was his suggestion that if the board concurs, to take information but not to act on this, because exactly what you're speaking of a covenant, obviously it would have to be agreed upon by all the parties involved. So it was his thought that we take the information this evening, and then if it's the desire of this body to move the public hearing to August 12th at 6:30 here at 8236 Burlington Road, so that we could have this other information, like you mentioned, from the North Syracuse Fire Department, and to discuss further the covenants.
Is there anyone from the applicant here to speak to? Okay, I see someone
Yes, sir.
waving their hand.
Okay.
Would you like a brief presentation, or do you have enough
Sure.
information?
So Mike,
based
would
on
you
the
like to
plans?
call on the gentleman there? I'm sorry, I don't have his name, so.
Alex,
Alex,
Alex.
please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name's Alex Wisniewski with LJR Engineering. I'm the engineer's applicant, and I am here tonight on behalf of Paul Joint to request your consideration of this zone change application. As you stated, it's our intent to build a self-storage facility. If you can bear with me, I'll try to do a share screen here with the plans. Let's see. Not seeing my. Can everyone see the zone change map? Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Good here. Thank you. Thank you,
Great.
Alex.
Well, just to give you a kind of an overview, that the hatched portion of the site, or the hatched site, is the request for zone change from it's currently agricultural. We're requesting change to industrial, as it illustrates on the aerial across the street on Northern Boulevard is currently existing industrial zone. That driveway you see there is the driveway that services the Rosselli cement facility there. And then we're surrounded by existing agricultural zones on the other sides. In response to, I think it was the Stevensons, they're the parcel to the south, and you can't quite see their home on this image. I can scroll up a bit. Yeah, it's out of view. But you can see to his point, that there was tree removal that occurred in the off season here. The reason being because the site is within an area of potential habitat for the Indiana bat. So you're not allowed to remove trees during their roosting season, which is now. So the reason he removed the trees when he did was to do so as not to impact any potential habitat for the Indiana bat. And the tree removal was contained and limited to the site itself, so the existing vegetation on the Stevenson's parcel remains. That will continue to remain, and I can get into later. I've got a conceptual site plan that we've worked out that shows how we've given additional considerations to the Stevenson property. I'll try to pull that up. Everyone see the concept plan okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the plan. The reason we put together the plan was to show what the intent of the development was. Another one of your write-in questions asked, why are we seeking an industrial zone? And the reason being is that's the only zone that your code will allow self-storage facilities. The commercial zone does not include that as a list of approved uses. So we felt it was important to show you here we're not talking about an type of development that might be typically associated with an industrial zone. These will all be single-story slab on grade storage units. He intends to do a nice job with, we're going to have landscape berming. There will be a perimeter fence around the site. We did have an intent to create some additional at South Flank where we abut the Stevenson property. So we were envisioning some mounding and some trees planted along there. And we've also intend to accommodate our stormwater in that area. So there'll likely be a pond and or a stormwater detention area, creating some further buffer. So we do intend to have a fence along that flank as part of the plan, more from a security standpoint. But I don't see an issue. I'm certain my client would agree to make that portion of the fence a privacy style fence. I don't know that 10 feet is allowed by code. I seem to recall you might have a height limitation on fences in your code, but we'd be agreeable to installing a privacy fence along that particular flank as requested. My client is also agreeable to the condition that the Stevensons had requested as it relates to the covenant on the land. That was brought up as part of the conversation with the planning board. I did have a chance to review that with my client, and he is agreeable to that covenant if the board so wants to condition the zone change upon that. Again, ideally, if there was another less intensive zoning that would allow for this type facility, obviously that's what we would have requested for the proposed zone. Lastly, there was the conversation, the letter from the fire department was discussed at some length at the planning board meeting, and basically the chief of the North Syracuse Volunteer Fire Department suggested that he was opposed to the zone change because there was no ability to serve the site from a fire supply standpoint. But I'd like to point out that we do have an easement. Can you see my cursor when I move it around here on the
Yes.
screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
So where that hand is, that's a utility easement that extends from Topman Road, and there is public water on Topman Road. I've requested some fire hydrant flow information to understand what kind of pressures we have, but I think it's adequate to bring fire service to the site, and if necessary, as part of zone change, or if requested by the planning board, my client is willing to bring public water with hydrants to provide fire protection to the site as well. And I believe those were the two conditions that when we presented to the planning board, they had recommended approval of this zone change with two conditions. And I believe those were the fire supply and the covenant to agree to only do the storage facilities, both of which my client is agreeable to. So if those concessions would satisfy the concerns of the board and put us in a position to act tonight, we would be in favor of that, just so that we could move into the site planning portion of the project. We did coincidentally just get the recommendation back from county planning today, and they came back and said there is no intermunicipal concerns and didn't have any recommended changes. There were a couple of comments. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up here.
Alex, could you send that information from county planning to us, please?
I sure can. And this actually came from your
We received
Heidi.
it earlier today.
I received it today.
I actually have it myself.
So surprisingly, the county didn't throw us really any concerns. They did have some general comments. They even reference I think it's your 2006 on page 1. It talks about your
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan.
your 2006 comprehensive plan and how this kind of fits in with that municipal comprehensive plan, excuse me. And I think we can solve the issue of the fire supply. We don't intend to have any kind of an office presence on the site, so there is no need for bathrooms. So therefore, we wouldn't need any kind of sewage disposal facilities. And we wouldn't have brought water into the site unless, required by the town for fire supply.
There's a concern of mine, Alex, Judy Boyke speaking.
Hi, Judy.
It speaks of the stormwater and the fact that it was proposed to drain into the ditch, the OCD's ditch, as I see it,
Yes, ma'am.
which was a major concern for them as well. Plus, it looks like they were concerned about the continued zoning in that area to ensure that everything was cohesive, which it isn't right now at this point. But the main concern, my feeling is that until this water is taken care of so that we know exactly the fact, because it's pretty costly to be bringing that water from Topman Road because we've had the circumstances in other areas. That is my main concern at this time. That and the drainage this into the swale.
Yes, ma'am. And just to respond, the comment relative to the drainage is pretty standard language for them. It is our intent to, we will need a speedies permit for the project. We're going to disturb more than an acre. So we'll have to comply with the requirements of the New York State speedies permit. But if you go down to, here's the comment from OCDOT, and their concern is simply that they won't allow us to discharge at a rate greater than what currently discharges into that existing roadside swale. So the intention of, if you go to the concept plan, the intention of these stormwater provisions are to control that stormwater and detain it prior to distribution into that roadside swale. But as part of our permitting with OCDOT to secure the driveway permit, we would also have to present them with a drainage report that meets their satisfaction.
Alex,
So
while you have that up, where are you looking to put this ponding? Because that's a big mosquito area over there. Where's this ponding supposed to be?
in this, call it the southeasterly corner of the site, and based on, we've done some initial soil investigations, and it appears that an infiltrative measure might be suitable in this area given the site soil. So if this were an infiltration facility, those operate on a theory where the stormwater actually drains into the ground to some extent prior to discharge through that, piped discharge system out to the county. And then as part of the speedies requirements for that, and this is to comply with the green infrastructure requirements of the speedies permit, there's certain measures that we have to employ to meet the requirements of that green infrastructure, and infiltration is one of those measures. But we'll also have some pre-treatment facilities probably in the front and the rear as water. I'm envisioning swales going around the perimeter of the site, following the cursor here in that direction, and then across this flank down to this existing area. And these will be pre-treatment facilities. The water will go into the larger infiltration facility and then discharge out towards Northern Boulevard. And what the county's saying is we can't discharge at a rate greater than what's currently going there. So we'll have to analyze that and make sure the county is agreeable. So that would all happen as part of site planning and OCDOT permitting. And to answer your question relative to the water, my client's already done some cost estimations to make sure he's comfortable with the cost of bringing that public water supply into the site. He is agreeable to do it, and he has the rights of access to do it. And I believe he's even spoke with the neighbor where the easement runs adjacent. So I think we've got
one last question. Where do the bats go now that you've taken their home away?
Well, it's really, those maps are real. It shows the area of potential habitat. And I don't know how much you know about these Indiana bats, but they like to live in.
I know a lot about them. I live in LA.
So they predominantly like to roost in these dead trees between the bark and the tree, and they'll roost there during the summer months. So the reason you have to take down trees in the winter is so as not to impact them while they're roosting. But there's no indications that there was any actual habitat there. It's just in their area of potential habitat.
Okay.
Alex, this is Nancy White. Back to the fire suppression issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Will the units themselves have any sort of fire suppression?
No, ma'am. No, these will all be slab on grade. And in talking to Mr. Procopio relative to building code, so long as we provide, I think we have to, each of these buildings is going to be 30 by 100 feet, so 3,000 square feet. And I believe we have to provide firewalls internally to keep the spaces under 1,000 feet so that you don't need any kind of internal fire suppression. So again, the only reason he would bring in water is to satisfy the concerns of the fire department to fight a fire. obviously these buildings are not going to be occupied. They'll be insured. So frankly, if there were a fire, you could let them burn. There wouldn't be any risk of injury or loss of life in that scenario, and insurance would cover it. But we do have a means to provide fire protection if need be.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Alex, would
You're
you,
gonna do some testing to determine if the pressure was sufficient on Totman Road? I mean,
Yeah,
don't
I'm
we
sure.
do that
I'm
before?
sure it is. Based on the existing elevations, this site is very similar in elevation to the elevations on Totman Road, and Totman Road does currently have fire supply. So I'd be shocked if we don't have adequate flow and pressure. It's just that it's the real cost is you got to bring it in 700 feet basically from Totman Road into the site. So I mean, you're looking at what's that, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. But I think our client has the means and ability to do that. Whether I think ultimately, if Aqua was agreeable, we'd like that to be an Aqua facility that they would own and maintain. But if need be, it could be a private water supply. But if you do private water with hydrants on site, you have to have backflow prevention in a heated enclosed facility out at Totman Road, and there's some significant costs with that. So ideally, this would be an Aqua main that would come into the site.
Okay.
Alex, would you be available to send us the information in writings? I think you indicated that you were receptive to a covenant and a fence and a few other things. Could you send us that in writing so we have it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Have it part of the file. Okay, Mike, back to you.
What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
I would like to keep the public hearing open until the next board meeting, August 12th. That's
Nancy?
my opinion.
I agree.
John?
I concur.
Bill?
Yes.
I
It'll give
also
us an opportunity, Mike, I think to have Alex have an opportunity to get the covenant wording together so that it's clear in all our minds as well as his client.
Yes, sir. I'll reach out to Mr. Germain and make sure we're good on the language for that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do you need anything? Do you need me to do anything else prior to your next meeting, short of getting you some responses in writing?
If
Relative
there's anything
to-
else, Alex, we'll be sure to contact you, okay?
Super. I appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, you did good on your first public hearing.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that.
That
So
being-
there's
that
no
being
action.
said,
We
Now
just-
you get to go to the next item. Set a public hearing date.
Hold the next one up.
Oh, wait, no, I think we need to adjourn the public hearing.
Yeah,
We need to vote on adjourning the public hearing.
Right, all right. Michael, take that.
Oh, I would like to take, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Until August
Until the
12th,
date of
Until the next
August 12th.
Which is
August
August
12th at 6:30.
at
Right.
6:30 PM.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay, Mike, now you get to move
Do it
to
again.
the item passed. Move to item number 4.
Set public hearing for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Resolved that the town board sets a public hearing for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020 at 6:30 PM at 8236 Brewerton Road to consider amending and superseding water petition plan titled Gillette Road Water District Island Hollow Extension dated January 5th, 2017 as prepared by LJR Engineering.
I'll second. Judy.
Kate, would you like to interject any information on this item? This is the Island Hollow extension. I see Kate, I don't hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. Yes, that's just, I think everyone recalls a few meetings ago, we brought up the Aqua to thing for Island Hollow, and Councilor Boyke asked a question at the time that got us into investigating a few things. And what we realized is Aqua is not billing the way the petition plan is set up. So we either needed to change how Aqua bills, or we had to change the petition plan. And speaking with the comptroller, it was much easier. We wanted to get everything in one district. It was easier for the town to maintain it that way. So we're just trying to get everything to align. So next week, the plans will, for the next meeting, you guys should all have some plans of what's existing and what's proposed and be able to see it then. And we can discuss it with a visual in front of you. We do not yet have the plans from the developer.
You'll have the costs along with that as well.
Yes, the costs are, though, I didn't think on my feet fast enough when you asked the question, but the costs are, Aqua bills the town, and then the town therefore then bills the water district, which gets distributed among equally, proportionately amongst the owners.
How many units per, is that how it's billed?
It's actually billed ad valorem, so it's billed by assessed value. So this Island Hollow, they have a much greater assessed value. I can't recall it offhand. So they will pay a much greater portion of the hydrant fee. So it should be very fair. As long as the values are all assessed fairly, everybody should be paying their share. But the water usage is all paid by the owner of the property. The water usage is not billed that way.
One other question, Kate. The people that are in this Gillette Road Water District, will all of those people be notified? How is that going to work?
I believe it's, I don't really know the answer. I think we're setting the public hearing. So then that's publicized if people wanted to, I mean, I'm guessing that's how that works.
Other than that, they would know about it because
Right.
not many people watch this Zoom.
Exactly, but yeah, right. I mean, it probably is truthfully, probably Island Road development may end up picking up a larger charge because it's done ad valorem. So if any, the residents I don't think should be impacted negatively at all, but I don't know the answer. Maybe Robert can I think that's the reason we are doing the public hearing.
Okay, well,
That's correct.
maybe we can get that cleared up between now and like a week in case they have to be notified.
Okay.
We're going to advertise it as well.
Okay,
Okay, would the clerk, do you have a second on this item?
I second it, Bill.
A second. Thank you, Judy. Further discussion on this item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes,
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes,
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Mike, you got the next item, which is,
I'm starting to like these, Bill. I like the
I
public
know.
hearings. It's kind of fun.
we're gonna
It's
get
kinda
you moving
fun.
along here.
Set public hearing for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Resolved that the town board sets a public hearing for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020 at 6:30 PM at 8236 Brewerton Road to consider acceptance of petition plans for contract drawings for Northern Boulevard Sewer District, contract number 3, and Gillette Road Water District associated with Island Hollow Apartments project.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
White.
Okay. Nancy White, discussion on this item? Clerk, well,
sorry,
say
will
something?
we also have information regarding this before the public hearing as well?
Yes, we have asked for them to hand in the drawings by the end of this week. So we should be able to get them to you the Friday before the town board meeting.
Okay,
next-
thank you.
Mhm.
Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes,
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes,
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Okay, number 6, this is an informational item concerning CDS Housing. CDS Housing is a 40-year company, I believe, and I think most of you are familiar with some of their work in the area in that they have a successful project up on Route 11 by the library. I've had conversations with these folks for pushing on 9 months now, encouraging them to, if they're going to expand their operation, to do it in the town of Cicero. So I believe we have a gentleman here from Ben, I think. Is Ben here from? Oh, there you
Yeah,
are, Ben.
Ben with, yep. Hello, and also with me is Luz Espiritu Santo from CDS. So we wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to come and talk to you virtually here and give you a little bit of information about first CDS and the sort of program, and then also about the site plan and the building itself. So part of the reason we're here is we're going to be requesting to go through a PUD process in order to establish this property. It's currently in a general commercial zone, which does not permit apartments. So we'd be looking for a planned unit development. That's kind of our context for being here. So I'm going to share my screen and then turn it over to Luz to start with some of the program discussion and about a little bit about CDS in case you're not familiar. So let me share that. Able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, great. I'll turn it over to you, Luz.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. My name is Luz Espiritu Santo, and I'm a project manager with CDS Housing. We're here to, we're very excited about the opportunity to discuss our proposed development with you tonight. And before I move on, I wanted to start off saying a few words about our agency. CDS Housing is a division of CDS Life Transitions. We're a mission-based nonprofit organization operating out of the greater Rochester area. We offer supportive services and housing opportunities to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, veterans, seniors, and families. And we've been doing that for over 40 years. Next slide, Ben. Next slide. Oh, hold on a second. My Zoom went away. Okay. CDS has developed several senior affordable housing developments in upstate New York. And as a mission-based nonprofit organization, we really pride ourselves on creating quality housing that is comparable, if not greater, than market rate housing. As our CEO often states, we want the residents of our facilities to be proud of where they live. And our goal is to create housing opportunities for people of all circumstances and backgrounds so that they can live and thrive in their community. Next slide. Our vision for this Cicero Phase 2 project. CDS Housing seeks to build on the success of our Phase 1 project in style and design. This project was completed in October of 2019. The proposed new development is going to involve the construction of 50 new apartments. It's going to consist of 1 and 2 bedroom units for area seniors and veterans at risk of homelessness. These will be at affordable rates of 30 to 60% of the area median income. And out of the 50 units, we are going to set aside 15 units for veterans. CDS has partnered with Soldier On. They're a mission-based nonprofit serving veterans on this development. They were formed in 1994, and they're dedicated to changing the end of the story for homeless veterans throughout the country. And they provide they coordinate extensive continuum of housing and supportive services for male and female veterans who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. They do work in partnership with the VA and other agencies, and they offer a lot of supportive services and need-based housing solutions. So the Cicero Phase 2 housing development will provide permanent supportive housing to these veterans. The approximate rent ranges are going to be from $405 to $820 a month. These are going to be handicapped accessible, and the tenants will only pay for the electric. All utilities will be included, so water, heat, and yeah, so only electric. Next slide. So our promise, again, is to provide quality, inclusive housing for seniors 55 and over, provide a safe, comfortable apartments, offering independent living in an inclusive community setting, aesthetically appealing exterior and exterior design and decor, resident opportunities for on-site socialization, entertainment, and events. And again, we will partner with local community-based providers to offer recreation and support to the residents. Next slide. Next slide, Ben. Oh, the amenities of our communities include the following. There's going to be free resident and visitor parking. We're going to have a computer lab, on-site laundry room, storage space. We are going to have on-site management and 24-hour maintenance, a community room, a fitness room, and convenient access to a bus line. I did want to mention that we have a wait list on our Spring Village apartments. We currently have a 30-person wait list. So there's definitely a need for this type of housing in Cicero. Next slide. That's it. So again, I will let Beth Gustafson from Han take over and explain the technical details of the project. But after he is finished, I'll be happy to address any questions you may have. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Luz. So I'll dive into a bit of the site and the building information here, and then we can circle back for more questions for Luz or on the site pieces. So this is the sketch plan submission that we prepared. I'll kind of zoom around some parts of this. So here's Brewerton, and this is the sort of Cicero Commons PUD. The parcels here we're looking at, there's two parcels right here that will be combining into one parcel, currently zoned the general commercial. We'll be looking for a change to a PUD, not technically an extension of the adjacent PUD, but effectively similar to that. So you can see with the current development is directly across the extension of Knowledge Lane. So it's really, we are expanding this community and being able to offer more housing in this area. And it's a great opportunity from a socialization, entertainment standpoint, the way the seniors interact. We'll have two communities, but they'll be able to relate and interact to each other. So some of the challenges with this site, as you can see, is, we've got sort of three roads on almost each side of this property. So there's a lot of discussions about the orientation of this building and where to situate it. So a couple of the considerations I want to make you aware of. One was, we want to make sure we gave a lot of space between the apartment building and Brewerton Road. So we didn't want the building up close to the road, and we also want to make sure the access came off of Knowledge Lane and not off the state route. The second sort of orientation piece is, we wanted to allow for interconnection between the buildings, but we didn't want the feeling of just a copycat on the other side of the road. And then the third piece was wanting to sort of respect the library garden and sort of look at an extension of that sort of field space there and allow for some interaction between that garden, our community, and the library in that area. So that was kind of some of the site situating aspects. And of course, things like grading and stormwater management also played into that, which is why some of the way that the building's a little bit at an angle. It's because there's a low point in this part of the site and this part of the site here as well. So some of the requirements we'll be looking at for the site, we sort of pulled these from the previous site application as well to make sure that we're consistent with the adjacent PUD, looking at the building setbacks, some of the impervious surfaces, the maximum building height. And we also are looking for parking spaces that align with the previous development. So right now we're proposing around 46 parking spaces. I think that number, is something we have some flexibility with to go up or down a little bit. But the main point is, we've seen, as seen in the current development, the number of parking spaces to meet your standard code standard of your standard code requirement of 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit isn't as necessary for this type of development. We haven't seen the parking fill up at the current site, and it has 46 spaces. So our thought is to continue with that approach, but make sure that we have an area on the site that could accommodate more parking if it was necessary. So this is some of the sort of bulk requirements that we'd be looking at for the PUD. Sort of look at the site itself in a bit more detail here. So a couple things I want to draw your attention to is, we have a couple of these stormwater management areas here. These are not going to be ponds. So they're going to be low-lying flat areas. We've already done some testing out there and have shown that there's some fairly good infiltration in this area. So we're going to be able to really capture and put back into the groundwater a lot of the impervious from the site. The other benefit we have is this is a redevelopment. As you saw from that aerial image, there's the existing commercial space on Brewerton Road. So we already have a lot of impervious on site, and we're going to be taking that back up. And in the end, we'll be having more water or less water leaving the site, more water going into the ground than does currently, to the benefit of the environment there. Our thought was in some of these open spaces, rather than proposing sort of grass that is consistently mowed, is to putting in more of a meadow mix, kind of respects what's there now in a ways, but try to bring in something with a bit more flower. So we're looking at it having sort of the continuing of the almost field on Brewerton Road, which has some agricultural aspects to it that we really wanted to respect there. I think there'll be some discussions about putting some trees in as well to provide over the length of this distance some buffering. But we won't be looking at like large rows of trees that entirely block the views, but something like maybe staggering 5 or 6, 7 trees to help buffer that, with the real intent being that it has an open meadow type feel around the building, which really would also allow us to sort of continue into the garden here. So we have a couple pedestrian access points. One is sort of connecting with the sidewalk that was constructed to connect to the library. So this will allow people to go between the developments and to the library itself. The other is we're likely going to have something of a gravel drive to access some of the electrical equipment that's required. And the thought is that this would allow people to be able to get to the gardens as they, in collaboration with the library, if that was something that was desirable. And then even look at doing something that had something of an outdoor park feel in this area adjacent to that garden area. So the existing house there has some really large sort of cube-like stones that maybe we could use and make some outdoor sitting area that has a park feel to it. So there's a lot of sort of nice aspects to being able to build this building in this orientation and connect it to the library and some of the existing open space you have there. I can go over more details of the development, but we have ready access to water and sewer. Really, we can access it from Brewerton or from Knowledge Lane. Right now, we're proposing Brewerton, but some of that will be worked out as we move through the site plan process. And we're continuing to learn from the phase 1 development. Thinking better about where the bike rack's going to go and making sure we accommodate a shed early on and some of those things. So it's a great opportunity to continue to build on some of the success we had in phase 1 and even sort of push beyond that. So looking at what the building looks like itself, it'll be similar to the phase 1 building, but we're going to be sort of wanting to change up some of the materials and the colors. So the existing building, as you know, is green. So maybe we'll pull in some of that green, but look at a different color scheme. And some of that is, up for discussion and flexibility. Also wanted to give you a sense of what that might look like from more like the road. So we sort of started to pull together something of a rendering here. If you're on Brewerton with that field in front, what that building could look like, especially with a facility that is has a veterans population, having something that prominently displays a flag and you can see that from Brewerton Road was a really nice feature, we felt like. And lastly, I wanted to sort of talk about the back of the facility because we sort of have these two fronts. given that when you come down Knowledge from the library, you're going to be seeing the rear side of the building. We wanted to add some more features, so we sort of changed some of the center core of the building to almost make it look like a second front of the building. So adding a porch there and raising the roof in this location, adding a bit more interest to the back of the building that might otherwise not be appropriate in this situation. Help like its own front of the building. You can get a bit of the reflection of that gravel drive maybe being a secondary access space. And those stormwater management areas would likely be also planted with something that is similar to a meadow. They may not have as many flowers, but it wouldn't be an area that's going to, again, have standing water or be regularly mowed. We'd plant it with something that had a low maintenance and contributed to that field feeling in that area there. So that was sort of some information about the building itself. I do have floor plans and other pieces of the puzzle here I could pull up if you're interested, but we'd like to turn over to the supervisor and the board for any questions you may have.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. You mentioned the requirement of 1.5 parking spaces per apartment. Via local law that was passed on February 12th, the town of Cicero now requires a minimum of 2 parking spaces per apartment for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and 3 parking spaces for apartments with 3 or more bedrooms. So just wanted to correct that. That's new. So depending when you looked or where you looked, you might not see that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question, Judy Boyke. Why not an extension of the PUD?
I think we weren't a part of the initial PUD application. So I think if the town felt like that was the most appropriate action, was that we extended the existing PUD. I don't think we would be opposed to that as long as it didn't add any particular complexities to the plan. And I think that was sort of our intent in trying to make sure that the bulk area requirements we had were consistent with the adjacent PUD.
Because we do have standards for our PUD in the town anyway, so I don't see how it could be any different. I'd ask that you look into that. Also, what are the plans for getting a traffic light on that road now that you're going to increase again more traffic onto Burton Road?
And so, we had done some initial traffic investigation for the first project, and our intent would be to update that and continue to see if a traffic signal is warranted with the DOT. And it's not expected that it would be, but it would be something that we would investigate as part of the site plan process.
Also, the car dealership that's on that property as well, is that going to be gone?
Yes. Yeah, so you can see the aerial here, that's the existing parking lot and the sort of barn-like structures that are there. All that would be removed.
Is any part of that going to be, you're going to have to do a brownfield investigation on it because of the parked cars and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely something that we want to consider. So we have an environmental engineer is doing site investigation to confirm whether there's any, soil that is going to need to be remediated or removed from the site. And we would certainly comply with any requirements from the state of the DEC in that regard.
Okay, and you would have some sort of berm or whatever because there was another business, I believe, the car business next door to that?
Yeah, this business right
Yes.
just to the south of us here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think our intent would be, we don't have much of the building oriented directly towards that business. So rather than doing a berm or a fence or really dense planting, again, we would probably put trees that as you look over the course of this whole, over this longer distance, you're less likely to see that, but we wouldn't necessarily be intending to fully screen the building from that adjacent building at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I think the board members would be interested in, and that is with this property here on Route 11, that would provide the availability of call bus service to your residents, which is a very valuable component for seniors to be able to make appointments and doctor's appointments. So I think that's a great asset for this location. For those of you who are not familiar with Soldier On, they're very pro-veteran as far as providing services like this. And they also work with organizations you may be familiar with, like Clear Path for Veterans and the Salvation Army, and as well as the state of New York and Onondaga County to coordinate and provide leads on housing. It's a very, very dramatic need. Now, the other thing, Ben, if you could confirm for me, I was told that under the definition of at risk for housing that would make veterans eligible is the situation where they may be older folks who are living in, I'm going to call it very distressed housing, and maybe a challenge for them to maintain housing, that would fit in your definition of at risk. Could you verify that for me?
Yeah, we can definitely verify that. I can get you the very specific language regarding at risk, but it is more open than it would initially seem. The real intent here is let's make sure that veterans have stable permanent housing long before it becomes a sort of catastrophic need and somebody is in a place where they need, temporary or shelter housing. So that at-risk definition is it's pretty open there. We can get you the specific language on that, Supervisor Meyer.
Okay, thank you. Do the board members have any other questions on this
No.
presentation?
Yeah, I had no question to comment. I
Mike?
kind of like the green, Ben. I like the green. Not that, I just like the green of the other building.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're open to those types of comments and suggestions. So I appreciate that.
Again, this is a informational component. It'll come back for other zoning and go to the planning board. So the board members will have other opportunities to examine this proposal. So Ben and Luce, I appreciate your being here and
Thank you, sir.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, number 7, is accept $375 cash donation on July 1st, 2020. James and Kennedy and Galloway met with Chief Rotuno at the Cicero Police Department in order to make a monetary donation of $375 in cash that was raised for the police department during a recent community garage sale in the Renee Gardens neighborhood. Resolved that the town board approves the donation of $375 for the Cicero Police Department by James and Kennedy and Galloway and place in budget line B 3120.57.
Second that, Nancy White.
Is it 0.56, Bill?
I stand corrected, Michael. Yes, 5.6. Thank you.
No, you're good.
Thank you. Discussion on this item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyd,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carlo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Thank you. Next item, Mike.
Approve 1,800-foot drainage pipe and bans for Darby Farms. Whereas the Highway Department is in need of drainage pipe for Darby Farms, now therefore be it resolved, the town board approves Steel Sales, Inc., supplier for the Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc., ADS state contract number PC 69053 in the amount of $11,000, budget code DB 511045.
Second that, Judy.
Second by Mrs. Boyke. Discussion? Call the roll.
Counselor Boyd,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carlo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Thank you. The item is adopted. Nancy, number 9.
Town board approves standard workday New York State local retirement system. Resolved that the town of Cicero hereby establishes the following amended term end date standard workdays for these titles and will report the officials to the New York State and local retirement system based on timekeeping system records or their record of activities.
Second, Counselor Bicallo.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyd,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carlo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer,
Yes. Item is adopted. Thank you. Judy, number 10.
Appointing Dawn Mauer as recreation attendant. Whereas Dawn Mauer is retiring August 20th after 35 years of service to the town, and whereas the office will need to have someone to assist in the office and with training her replacement. Now therefore be it resolved to approve Dawn Mauer up to 15 hours a week at a pay rate of $25 an hour as recreation attendant beginning August 24th, budget code B702011.
Second, Counselor Bicallo.
Discussion.
I'd like to just speak to that for a few minutes. Dawn, after, I'm sure it took her a long time to make this decision to retire. So with the integral part of that, as well as we will be looking for a new Parks and Rec director as well, that it will only leave Linda Adams alone. So I feel that this is a good recommendation, and Dawn is very well qualified to be able to bring a new person up to speed. I also asked Jody in response to this to ask for the new list for Dawn's replacement. And also you will, I will reflect that in the directors in another agenda item, because this person is the direct assistant and administrator to the director of Parks and Rec. So it's quite a responsibility for one person. So thank you.
Is there an end date? There seemed to,
Nancy?
is there
I'm
an
sorry.
with this? There seemed to have been an issue with prior recommendations for part-time people and having end dates.
Well, with this one, it's hard to tell right now because we don't even have the list for the replacement for her. So depending upon the person being hired, it would be based on that whole time frame. The new Parks director is going to be involved with this, and the interviewing can obviously start prior to, and I can explain that in a few minutes in another agenda.
Nancy, I appreciate that catch. Could we do that? Can we just do this month to month?
I would make a recommendation that it goes at the longest, the end of September. I spoke with Teresa, and depending on your opinions for the director, she would like to get started on this earlier rather than later. We can pull the list as early as tomorrow, and we can get going on a canvas and potentially get some interviews done, with Teresa and Dawn assisting her. And I would think that, get both of these people to start at the same time. And I would say no later than the end of September, probably third week in September, Mike. Dawn's last day is August 20th, so you're only talking maybe 4 weeks beyond the 20th.
Should we?
Mikey, would you like to amend your?
August 31st?
Her last work day is August 20th.
Oh, okay.
Teresa, the new director won't be starting till the 8th of September, so you got to give, I would say, at least a week, maybe 2 weeks for training for the clerk position with the director being there as well.
I misheard you. I'm sorry, Jody. So it would be
That's-
something along the lines of like September 18th to the 25th. So that the
Yeah.
Friday.
Yes, I would say that would be fine, Mike, the 25th at the latest.
Okay.
So should we change the resolution to reflect
I-
that?
Mrs. Mikey, would you like to amend your resolution to
Yeah.
an end date of September 25th?
Yes, I would like to do that. After conversation, please amend the resolution to make an end date of September 25th for Dawn Mauer to remain as the park attendant. I would also like to leave that as upon that time, if needed, that we can revisit this with the possibility of having to extend.
I don't think you'll have to put that in your resolution, Ms. Boyke. I think the board concurs with your thought process, so.
I agree,
Okay.
Bill.
Okay.
So we have a motion as amended by the sponsor, only adding the item to, if the
And,
back-
right, the end.
clerk could read back the amendment to make sure we're on the same frequency.
We inserted the end date of September 25th, 2020.
I'm not sure if you heard that, so I'll
We
read.
heard it. I
Okay,
heard it.
thank you.
I didn't hear her. Can you repeat it? Thank you.
Yeah, to insert the end date of September 25th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to assume the second is still on board on this resolution. Further discussion on number 10. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carp,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCallum,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Number 11, Nancy.
Approve additional monies for Northeast Beaver and Predator Management for beaver removal. Whereas the town of Cicero is in need of additional trapping of nuisance animals, and as per the contract to expire on December 30th, 2020, was for $1,800, and that amount has been exceeded. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves the additional amount of $3,200 to be added to the original agreement, $5,000 total, for Northeast Beaver and Predator Management, budget code SD 854040400.
Second. Mr. Carp, second. Discussion on number 11. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carp,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCallum,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Items adopted. Thank you.
Number 12.
Mrs. Boyke, you have number 12.
Yes. Hiring Teresa Roth as Director of Recreation. Whereas interviews were completed by Parks and Recreation Commission and Department Liaison Judy Boyke to determine the best qualified candidate to fill the vacant position of Director of Recreation. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended Teresa Roth, therefore be it resolved, the town board approves the hiring of Teresa Roth as Director of Recreation at a salary of $66,000 with a start date of September 9th, budget code B70201.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carp. Discussion.
I just wanted to reiterate a little more. I did send out a lengthy email to all involved with this. And Ms. Roth comes highly experienced, as she comes from the North Syracuse Village as their Parks and Rec Director. I did sit in on all of these interviews and was very impressed with her background, her qualifications, and her comments and ability in handling staff, and also several other of the opportunities as far as she is, I believe, a certified, Jody, what's the word? She has to do with water. She's a lifeguard. Anyway, she comes with a whole bunch more than many of the other candidates that were involved. So I know she's going to be a great fit, and I certainly hope that all of you agree. Thank you.
Judy, she's on. Judy, Teresa's in your Zoom meeting.
Okay, Teresa, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I appreciate those kind words, and I definitely look forward to the opportunity of working with the town. I'm excited. I hope to meet all of you soon in person.
Thank you. Her start date, as Jody had mentioned, is September 8th. and due to the transition of her leaving the village, but she will be available as well to work along with looking for a new administrator. So I think that, I think is all going to work out well. Thank you.
I had a conversation with Gary Butterfield, who's the mayor of North Syracuse, and he obviously gives Ms. Roth very high marks in her service to the village of North Syracuse. He obviously is saddened a little bit to lose her, but at least she's still in the community. So again, look forward to working with Ms. Ross.
Teresa, are you following me? The mayor must love this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Clerk will call the roll.
8th or 9th?
The 9th.
Nancy had a question.
I'm sorry, Nancy White.
I'm sorry.
The 8th, the 9th. I'm trying
Hang
to.
on. Well, Jody said the 8th.
The 8th is a.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Nancy? I didn't hear you.
Her start date.
Start date. Their resolution says the 9th, but they mentioned the 8th a couple times. It's
the
Teresa,
9th.
It's the 9th. It's the 9th.
the 9th. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We're all set. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Callow,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Items adopted. Thank you. Jonathan?
I have a resolution that's not on the agenda. Whereas on January 22nd, 2020, the Cicero Town Board passed a resolution applying a later corrected town employment policy to Officer Michael Aragano and authorizing payment to him for the time period of July 31st, 2000 to December 31st, 2000. And whereas such payment was made. And whereas such resolution specified that a letter of support from the town supporting the application of Officer Aragano to receive credit for said time period in the New York State retirement system was to be sent. And whereas a letter dated July 7th, 2020 was sent to the New York State retirement system by Supervisor William Meyer, which purported to be the letter of support specified in the aforementioned resolution. And whereas the majority of the Cicero Town Board finds the text and letters of the letter sent to the New York State retirement system was contrary to the spirit and direction of the board resolution duly passed in support of the application. And whereas the Cicero Town Board has an interest in ensuring that its decision and intent in passing the aforementioned resolution are carried out, now therefore be it resolved, the Cicero Town Board shall send a letter to the New York State retirement system signed by those voting in favor of this resolution, repudiating the letter dated July 7th, 2020, and expressing support for the application of Officer Aragano to receive retirement credit commensurate with the time for which he was paid.
That thing came up about a hour block.
Okay, we have a second.
I second that.
Second, Mrs. Boyke. Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Callow,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
No. Items adopted. Thank you. Next item is the discussion portion. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be having a special town board meeting on August 12th of this year at 6:30 here at 8236 Brewerton Road. Michael, did you have an item next?
I did, Bill. Thank you for the time. Since we have a new comptroller, I would like to get together with the board members and discuss the opportunity of getting an audit done, something I've been asking for a long, long time in this town. This is a perfect opportunity to do so.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, it's certainly nothing against the old comptroller. I personally, and I don't work in that field, I don't think it would be a bad idea just to make sure that the new one's coming in and with a clean slate and that everything's in order. But again, I don't have any expertise. It sounds to me like that's a reasonable idea.
I think so as well. I would also like to include that the managerial part of it as well. Just looking at all of the, because the comptroller was the HR person at the time. So I'm not quite sure how to word that, but it looks like we should be going out for a bid for this item in the first place. Thank you.
Just to make sure I have a sense of what we're looking for here. Are you looking to have the comptroller develop specs to do this audit, Mike? Is that what we're doing? And then go from there, or what's the action item, I guess, is next?
just
I
to
would
have
like input from our new comptroller, and yes, to assist in developing of the specs of this financial audit, as well as to discuss Counselor Boyke's managerial audit as well.
Okay, thank you.
Something
I'll have, if the board members concur, I will have a discussion with Elka tomorrow, and so she can develop a plan to send forward to the board.
Thank you, Bill.
I concur. I think it's better. I think it's always a good idea to do these things.
Oh, I agree as well, because of the length of time and the fact that we really hadn't had an audit. So I think it's a good
Okay,
idea.
thank you. So we'll have Elka get some ideas together and then send it out to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, under the public input component, I did not receive any emails or faxes on any other items that were on the previous agenda or on this one. So I have nothing to offer at this moment. Any other items for the board members?
I would just reiterate that I agree with having a special town board meeting on the 12th. And I think once again that we need to revisit our summertime meeting policy, because there's just too much work to do to only have one meeting per month. So I'm hoping that in the organizational meeting, we just set next year, we just set 2 meetings for July and 2 meetings for August.
I agree.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate
I
you
look
for doing
through.
that, Mr. Meyer, because we've had overloaded July and August meetings in the past when we've only had one meeting. So
Correct. I concur with you, Mr. Carp. I look back at many years of so-called summer with nothing going on, and it was frequently when there would be meetings that would come up. So I concur.
4 or 5 page agendas sometimes. So yeah.
Right. Thank you. Okay, that being said, again, we're looking for a meeting August 12th. I will.
Hey, Bill, I believe Nancy had something to say.
Okay, sorry, Nancy.
He kind of ignores me, doesn't he? I just wanted to say, should I jump up and down or something?
I see you now.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to say hello to Elka and make sure everyone knew she was with us today. I'm really happy to see her here. I think she's going to flourish here and do a wonderful job. I think this is right up her alley. She has a great sense of humor, as you can see from her office, and I'm glad to see her. So welcome,
Me
Elka.
too. Absolutely. Okay.
Move. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Hey, Bill, are those